Hey, I'm Mike Ruiz, and I'm a celebrity photographer from New York City. And I was born and raised in Canada, and I didn't have much exposure to Latino culture because my mom was French Canadian, my dad was raised in the U.S., and of course we were being raised in Canada, so we weren't exposed much to Latino culture. So I sort of was a late bloomer as far as my getting in touch with my Latino roots. That kind of happened when I moved to the U.S. In my mid-20s. But when I moved to Miami, it's the first time people because of my coloring, people just automatically assumed that I was a Cuban or Puerto Rican, so people would just launch into Spanish. So I thought, so then that's kind of really sort of where I thought that this is like a prevalent thing in me and in my life, and I really want to learn more about the culture and embrace the culture. So that's kind of when it sort of started to unfold.
What was that?
I came out when I was 17 years old. I came out to my friends who didn't even bat an eye, and then I came out to my parents several years later, but fortunately I've never had a negative experience coming out. Most of the negativity associated with my being gay and coming of age had to do mostly with myself, and of course, like in high school, being relentlessly bullied. People will bully you for anything. I grew up in a French Canadian, entirely white, like snow white community, and so I was a little overweight. So I was ethnic, and I used to always hang out with the girls. So I got it from every angle. I had like every strike against me. So needless to say, the bullying was pretty intense and unrelenting. Why I feel so connected to doing work with LGBT youth now, because of that, because I know what that feels like. I know that feeling of isolation and that feeling of teetering close to the edge of not knowing if you want to go on or not. And being in the public eye, you tend to I've been approached to speak on behalf of different organizations, and I have, and by doing so, I've educated myself, and I've learned the statistics, and the statistics are really alarming these days. I came of age when AIDS was a death sentence, and you were gonna, so my generation adopted a mindset where if you didn't protect yourself, you were dead. Those were the two choices that you had. Today people don't put as much stress on the importance of being safe and education and all of that as they used to, and as a result, the highest incidence of HIV infection is between 17, the age bracket of 17 and 24, which in this day and age with all is really, it's shocking, and it's really unnecessary. So I'm wired in a way where once I have information, I can't not use it. I can't, if I'm informed, if I know somebody's being, abused next door, I can't ignore it. That's just the way I'm wired. Some people can turn a blind eye very easily. I can't. My guilt conscience is way too overwhelming. And that's spread to our four-legged friends these days. I've adopted the sweetest little rescue that you'll ever meet in your life, and I love that little thing more than you can imagine. And as a result, I can't, if I hear a dog yelp or cry, I'll burst into tears. And so I've been advocating on behalf of adopting animals as opposed to buying from pet stores and puppy mills, and and taking care of your dogs and not discarding. The advice that I'd give to a kid coming out now who's being bullied, you're right that it was different when we were younger. We get bullied at school, but then that was the end of it. Unless you got bullied by your older siblings, which I did. So I really never had a safe haven. But theoretically, you could leave the bullying at school. But now with technology, you get affronted it's unrelenting. But that same technology, my advice is that same technology can be used to educate yourself and to empower yourself and to tap into an even bigger. You think the bullying network is is your, is all encompassing because that's your world at the time. But if you use technology, you'll tap into an even bigger entity that is positive and supportive and nurturing and makes the little bullying community seem so small and insignificant.